Hello, welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger on January 24th, 2021. I've been dealing a lot with a friend's legal troubles this past week. Him and his wife, they're up against a very unreasonable, very obnoxious, and very uh, savage uh, landlord, and the situation is quickly escalating to the point of illegal activities getting perpetrated. So I spent a lot of the last 4 days talking to police officers or talking to lawyers and talking to various departments of the government. And maybe because of that, maybe because of the injustice I have witnessed this week, how the police and the lawyers and the government workers don't want to have anything to do with the situation, even though there's clearly illegal things being done here, even though there's clearly a right side and wrong side in this situation. They either can't do anything about it because of jurisdiction, or they can't do anything about it because it is just not big enough of a deal. Maybe because of all this, that it's making me think of some of the things that I learned from a person who, in the great scheme of things, was only in my life for a relatively short period of time. But even in that 1 year that I've known this person, I have learned quite a bit from him. I think almost every school, from kindergarten up to university, have its legendary figures. There's always that one boy or girl who everybody likes. There's always one boy or girl who everyone think is loser. There's always one boy or girl who everyone think is really, really badass and you do not want to piss them off. And there's always going to be one teacher that everybody think is the worst. No one like to take their class. The person I'm thinking of was my high school history teacher. I'm not going to give his real name here, but we'll call him Mr. B. Now, Mr. B was that legendary teacher. He was the worst. He was that teacher whom not only students, but most other teachers didn't even want to talk to him because of how obnoxious he could be. I remember when I told my friends that I signed on for History 12, and they asked me who was teaching. I said I'm in Mr. B's class. Every one of my friends said, "Oh man, you are so going to hate this. He is the worst. He is an ogre. He is a tyrant, and there's just no way that you're going to get along in his class." I remember probably like the second or third class Mr. B taught that I was in. Uh, he walked into the class, stood in front of the desk, his desk, and he said to the whole class, he said, "Everyone thinks that Hitler was wrong when he would execute people who displeased him regularly. I don't think so. I think it's a great idea. I think if it at the beginning of every semester I can take some of you out front of the school and shoot you in the head, we would all know where we stand with each other. You would know not to disrespect me, and it would make my job a lot easier, and you guys would learn history a lot easier this way." That's what he said. I mean, it's just crazy that he would say that. It's like right in your face, brutal, honest, and uncouth almost, and very undiplomatic. unapologetic. You can go tell the principal if you like, but I'm going to tell you what I think. That kind of thing. He stood there and told us that if he could take us out and shoot us in the head, it would be a good idea. That's the kind of teacher Mr. B was. Just didn't care if he offended you or not. Within the first month, I had my first trouble with Mr. B. I remember he asked us to go home and write a 15-page essay on the performance of Canadian soldiers during the Second World War. Now, most of you probably don't know this, but some people know it, that even back in grade 11, grade 12, I was already a voracious reader and a quite accomplished writer, and especially very accomplished in creative art. I constantly score perfect score in English literature, in art, in music. I was that shiny star when it came to art and literature. I was that shining star when it came to some athletic events. I was in my own right one of the legendary figures. So when he told us to write a 15-page essay on one of my favorite subjects, which was war at the time, I thought it was a piece of cake. I came home and hammered out that 15-page essay within, well, within 3 hours, I would say, and it was polished and ready to go within 4 hours. I put so much into that. The bravery of Canadian soldiers, the self-sacrifice, the selflessness, how they were so brave to rescue others, and how they stepped into the line of duty without a second thought, and the equipment they had, how every one of them was a heroic figure. I even had my English teacher double check that essay for me just to be sure, and even my English teacher said it was a beautifully written piece of work. A couple of days later, when it's time to hand in the essay, I handed in my essay, and I was thinking, well, Mr. B is really hard to please. He is really kind of a obnoxious person, so I didn't expect an A, but at least I thought, well, it's such a good essay, you should at least get a C plus or B. He didn't even read through the entire essay. He came over to my desk and slammed that essay down on my desk, and he said, "That's a fail." I was dumbfounded. I couldn't understand it. I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "It's a fail." I said, well, I know the spelling is fine. I triple checked, and I know it's not that bad because I even had Mrs. blah 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 English teacher double checked, and she said it's a beautifully written piece of work. How can it fail? What's wrong with you? I was angry, and he said, "You want to know why it's a fail? Well, I'm going to tell you. Because it's a piece of crap. That's why it's failed." I got offended, of course. How? What do you mean it's a piece of crap? It's, English teacher says it's fine. It's beautifully written. He said, yeah, it, it doesn't matter. It's a beautifully written piece of crap. You are sitting in a history class. I don't give a whatsoever. He actually swore there, but I'm not going to repeat that. I don't give a whatsoever about bravery, about self-sacrificing, about honor and glory and all that stuff that you think is so important. I want numbers, I want years, I want geography names, I want unit positions. That's what you're here to do. Take this home and write it again. I took that essay home and I took out all the fancy romantic descriptors and adjectives and I turned in probably the most boring essay I've ever written in my life. And that finally got an A out of him. This experience taught me something that was very, very important. One of the most important things that I've learned in my life, which is know your position, know where you stand, and know what is expected of you before you go off half-cocked and think that you are uh, really good at doing what you ever you said you think you can do. Make sure you know where you stand. Make sure you know what you are supposed to do before doing it. Because it doesn't matter how super awesome you think you are, if you miss the mark, you miss the mark. Very important lesson from a man that everyone told me was the worst teacher in school. There was another day where when Mr. B came to class and he said, "Before I start teaching, I'm going to tell you guys what happened last night." I took my wife to the movie, and then we were standing there in line, and we were almost at the front of the line, and suddenly we heard a commotion at the back of the line. And there's this big biker dude in leather and chains that come barreling through the crowd, elbowing everyone out of the way, and he shoved my wife and almost made her fall down. What do you guys think I did? Well, we were thinking, you are such a small twerp. You probably just get in the guy's face and yelled at him. I don't. We didn't think that he had any fight in him. He said, "You guys probably think that I confronted the guy and at least gave him a piece of my mind. Well, let me tell you, you're wrong. I took my wife by the arm and we stepped out of his way." And he said, "You guys are wondering why I even bother telling you this very anticlimactic story that makes me look like a coward. Because I want to let you guys know that there are going to be times in life when stepping away, when stepping aside, is the best way to handle things. By doing so, even though I look like a coward to you teenage boys, I'm able to come here and teach today, and at the end of the day, I can go home and take my wife to another movie. I don't care what happened to that guy. My job is not to discipline that guy. My job is to be here to teach you guys." I'll be honest, at the time I still thought he was being a bit of a puss, but many, many years later, I came to realize he was teaching us another very important life lesson, that sometimes some battles just not worth fighting. This week, helping my friend dealing with this landlord, I've been trying to slowly get him used to this idea that maybe in the end, stepping aside, stepping away is the best way to handle things. Anytime you run into an injustice, you run into someone doing you wrong, your instinct is to get in their face, your instinct is dig in, your instinct is to hit them back. They hit you once, you want to hit them twice. They hit you in the face, you want to hit them in the chest. You want to at least make it even. But quite often, you forget that if you just step away, then everything will blow over very quickly and everything will be fine. The one instance that changed my view on Mr. B, that really cemented my respect for the guy, was this one time when there was only three of us in his class. And that was a rather common occurrence because everybody hated him, so a lot of people skipped his class. I skipped a lot of his class. This time there was me and two other people in class, and we weren't even there because we liked the class. We were just there because it was raining and there was nowhere to go. Mr. B came into the classroom, opened up his book, stood in front of the class, and started that day's lecture. He didn't let it disturb him that there were only three of us. He gave everything he had into that lecture. And then he asked us, anyone got any question? I put up my hand. I said, Mr. B, why are we wasting each other's time? Why are we pretending? You see that we don't care. We know that you don't like us. You see that there's only three of us in class. So why waste everybody's time? Why not just give us the period off and let us do whatever we want? And you can take a break and you don't have to deal with us either. Mr. B said to me, he said, Johnny, you're wrong. It's not about if you like me or I like you. It's about me being contracted to do a job. And I will do this job to the best of my ability, no matter if there's 50 of you, or if there's only one of you, or even all of you decide to skip class. I was paid to come here and teach, and I'm going to come here and teach, and I'm going to teach it to whoever is willing to listen to me. From that day forward, I mean, I still didn't like him, but I gained a super deep respect for this teacher. This teacher, who everybody said was the worst, who everybody said was obnoxious, unreasonable, I saw him in a different light. This was a person who was extremely dedicated to his craft. He was extremely dedicated to what he was here to do. This was a person who was very honorable in his own way. So, for the rest of my life, no matter what I'm trying to do, no matter what the outcome might be, no matter if I think it's worth doing or not, one thing that I try to keep in the back of my mind is this what I'm paid or contracted or obligated to do? Because if it is, then everything else is secondary. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and outcome be damned, everything else be damned. I am going to do my job. Of course, dealing with all these police officers and lawyers and government workers make me wish that more of them have taken Mr. B's class and more of them would have even a fraction of the kind of honor that he showed me that day. Thank you for checking out today's Soul Search Sunday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Music Monday. For now, have a good night.